week. A beautiful morning. Morning, Spencer.
Morning.
And we have a wonderful guest in studio from the Economic Development Council of Mason County, Executive Director Jennifer Baria. Hello.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Morning.
It is beautiful. For Monday,
Yeah.
I'm doing
man.
pretty good.
You're doing pretty
Yeah.
good. Great.
Yeah. Sunshine, blue skies. You're driving in, passing for state patrol people, so beware.
And you paint on the crosswalks and everything?
Did you
It's
notice
nice
that?
out there,
I
huh?
didn't. I came. Where's the new paint?
Well, you just crossed the crosswalk between our burg and your burg.
I didn't even notice. I will on my way
nice,
back.
yeah.
Shiny.
Yeah. Reviewing my notes for this interview.
I did notice they were a little slick, but I think that's the fresh paint on there.
I put my handprints. Are they going to be mad?
No.
He watched him finish and went out and signed his name.
Yeah.
Really small.
On every single one.
Spencer walked here. Oh my
Spencer
God.
was here. Spencer was here.
Yeah. Someone's going to do that. I'm going to get in trouble.
We're gonna get you a stamp. Something.
What's going on, Jennifer? What do you got for us today?
Well, I know that you guys are excited always to talk about taxes.
Yes.
So I thought the IRS just released their second round of proposed guidelines around the opportunity zones.
Sure.
So I thought I'd come in and talk with you a little bit about what those zones are. I know we've talked about it before, but it's one of those things that you kind of have to keep talking about for people to wrap their head around.
Back in 2017, the president signed into law the tax bill, and in that were things called economic opportunity zones, and they are put forth areas all across all of the states, and the governors in the states determine these economic opportunity zones. And this is a deal where private folks can purchase into an area to help revitalize it. Is that correct a little bit? Am I
A
right
little
at all?
bit. So it is a nationwide program. It is specifically targeted for low-income areas, low-income rural areas, to really be able to bring investment dollars into those areas to help kind of spark growth in areas that aren't seeing as much as our urban and our metropolitan neighbors. So nationwide, there's about 9,000. In Washington State, it's a percentage of how many of those communities that you have is how you had to kind of work through it. So within Washington, we have about 130 plus, I think it's 133. But those have been approved by our governor. Our list is set. Mason County has 2 of them. So what that allows us now to do with those 2 zones is projects within that, or potential projects within that. Essentially, we're building up prospectuses to be able to prospecti. I don't know the plural of that word. To be able to talk with those funds, which is what you have to create if you're an investor. And within those funds, you essentially present your project. If it's a project that they are interested in, that they want to do and move forward with, they can go ahead and invest within that project, as long as and then they get the tax break on the other end. That's really for the investor. So you get the capital you need, they get the tax break that they need. We do have an opportunity here to be able to create our own fund. So you kind of look at it kind of in a tier system. You've got the big juggernaut investor groups that have close to 600 million, I think, are the biggest ones. There's about 3 of those. And then you think about the number of projects within those 9,000 zones. How are you going to really set your project apart to present to those? So you're essentially kind of doing two avenues. So we'll be doing that. And then you're also looking at local investors who have the money, who want to be able to help our local community. And then the tax benefit is a bonus to them. So structuring a local fund so that those investors can join into that fund and very specifically fund projects that are here.
So do you pick a list of projects, or is this money used for the infrastructure for the zone, or? So
the money from the investors are used specifically for those projects. So If you had a business an entrepreneur that had an expertise but hasn't been able to put together the capital, but they've got a plan, they have all of their different steps that are needed to get that business going. There's a return for those investors. They can present their project. So none of the funding from those funds goes to EDC, anything like that. It's just a project really to help those businesses, I want to give you an example. We don't have one specific one right now, but
who do they pitch? I mean, do they pitch the governor's office?
No, you pitch the investor group. So the fund, you have people that manage the fund.
Yeah.
You pitch them, they take it to their investors.
Oh, okay. Huh. Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple around Mason County, around the area.
We've got, I'll give you some general areas. We've got one that covers the Camilche Valley. Squaxin Island went for an opportunity zone, and that's the one that they got. So it covers kind of that southern area. And then the other one that we have encompasses right around the Wallace Neelan, Johns Prairie area. So it hits Port of Shelton a little bit further north, heads east to down Johns Prairie and comes out around Highway 3.
Are there any restrictions to what is being built, or is that just based on the approval of the investors?
There's restrictions on how they can invest their money. So once you're an investor, once you've built that fund, they can invest in the land. If you're a business and you want to say, here is what I need, let's move forward with that. There's ways for them to invest around the intellectual property. So it's really, how do you give a value to what it is that the investors, you can't just say, oh, well, this is what this project is worth. You have to be able to really financially delve down.
I really don't want to make this any more complicated, but I may.
but he had the but.
I may with this question. Is it similar to the curb stuff, like if you were to think about it in a curb grant sort of way, and that for folks, some places on Port of Shelton property, they've had worked with businesses, applied for curb grant funding through the state, and they had to go make presentations. And
it is in that it's a financial tool that a business can use. Curb is a little different. You need a public partner.
Okay.
And it's generally a grant, though they have a loan option for you to be able to pay back. So really the benefit to the investor is that tax setup. So just kind of broad view. So what they do is they've got money invested. When you take it out, they pay what's called a capital gains tax on top of that money that they've earned while it's been sitting in whatever investment it is. So in order to not pay or pay less of that capital gains tax, they can put it into one of these funds, one of these zones.
Okay.
So if the money is in that, and it's different times. So if you keep it in there for 5 years, then they get I want to say it's a 15% deferment. So, or they can defer paying on that tax, and then it's 15% less than what it is that they were going to pay. If they keep it in for 7 years, it's an additional 10%. So total, you can get a 25% tax reduction. If you keep it in for 10 years, then the money that they've put into that, when they remove money out of that investment, they don't pay capital gains on the money that they invested. So they still have to pay the deferment, but they don't pay on what it is that they've earned through that investment.
I did a quick Google search for economic opportunity zones and IRS, and there are some links through irs.gov that have a little bit more. One thing I did notice too is that you don't have to live necessarily in the economic opportunity zone to invest in that opportunity zone.
You don't, and that really is a very exciting opportunity, not to use the same word, but you've got big dollars in other states. Why not pull that fund or that money here? So you don't have to live there. The business does have to be located that is being invested in it, but they don't have to only sell here. They can sell globally as well. So
have you thought about putting together some sort of a luncheon on this to kind of
a luncheon. We're also putting together a community group to really build our portfolio of projects so that we have something that we can be talking with those investors about.
Oh, folks are interested more in learning about these economic opportunity zones. And listen, it's a tough concept. I've been struggling for 2 years to try to understand this, talking with you and Commissioner Kevin Schutte into this, things like that. But it looks like it's got a lot of good benefits.
It does. And now that we have finally, it feels like these proposed guidelines are the ones that are going to be moving forward. So now that we've got those on those opportunities where it's not a physical incentive, then I think we'll be moving forward pretty quickly.
Jennifer Baria from the Mason County EDC. Look at Choose Mason soon with a new revamped website and all sorts of good stuff. They're just up the road from us at 310 West Coda if you are interested to learn more about this or the other things the EDC does.
Come check out the new crosswalks and visit us.
Yeah, it was so nice and bright and shiny this morning.
But also pay attention to your surroundings. Don't just be staring down at the road all day.
I stood in the middle of the road for like 20 minutes.
Thankfully,
there's something different. What's going on?
Break time now.